Okay, I'd like to start this meeting. Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10-4-10, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by advertising such notice in the Home News Tribune, the Asbury Park Press, the Board Office, the schools, and on Cablevision Channel 118 and Verizon Files 24, and by filing such notice with the Township Clerk. This meeting was scheduled for June 3rd, 2024. The Board will take formal action on budget of bills, and adequate notice of this meeting has been advertised. Thank you. Yes. Oh, he's here. Okay. Thank you.
The Old Bridge Township Board of Education acknowledges that the law of this state establishes that members of the public, including members of the board, have the right to record public board meetings using audio or video recording devices, provided that the act of recording does not interfere with the business of this public board meeting. Therefore, the board makes it known that any such recording is to be considered the private recording of the individual and in no manner represents the official record of this board. The board therefore takes no responsibility for such private recording and completely disavows any future use.
Thank you, Mr. Waddell. Roll call, please.
D'Antuno.
Here.
Giordano.
Here.
Jodry.
Here.
Francisco.
Here.
Lent.
Here.
Marquetta. Mazzone.
Here.
Slade.
Here.
Solikowski.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Would everybody please stand for the pledge? Thank you. Okay, the opening remarks.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming today. I believe we're going into executive session first or at the end? No, not at, okay, at the end. Okay. Again, thank you all for coming. This will be our second public hearing for the 24-25 budget. This will be the revised budget that we'll be presenting on tonight. I want to welcome all in attendance and watching remotely to the public hearing presenting the 24-25 proposed revised budget for the Old Bridge Township School District. The outline for tonight's hearing will be a little different than our prior hearing, as you'll mainly hear from me tonight. Our agenda is as follows. I will introduce our board members in attendance here tonight. Our Superintendent of Schools, David Cittadino, will provide an opening statement. We will review our budget priorities for 24-25. I will provide a little bit of a budget review, so to speak, in relation to the state of our district. I will then report on the impact of legislation, Public Law 2024, Chapter 12 and Chapter 13. I will report first on the district revenues, followed by the appropriations. I will recap the action to be taken by the board this evening, the result of the tax impact from the pending action, and finally a budget summary on the proposed 24-25 revised budget. The administration and board members may have the opportunity to make any additional comments. At the conclusion of final administrative comments, we will then open the meeting for public comment. Tonight we have in attendance our entire board. We have Marjorie Jodry, Jay Slade, Sal Giordano, Jen D'Antuno, President Matt Solikowski, Christina Mazzone, Elaine Francisco, Lenny Marquetta, and Lisa Lent. From our administration in attendance, we have Superintendent of Schools, Mr. David Cittadino, to my right. To my left is Assistant Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Kathy Hoker, and Dr. James Toohey, Assistant Superintendent of Educational Programs, will be helping on the slides tonight. Myself, David Waddell, School Business Administrator, Board Secretary. I will now turn the presentation over to Mr. Cittadino to provide a brief opening statement.
Good evening. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Just a little bit as to where we are and how we started here. In about the year of 2007, the state legislation passed an S2 legislation redirecting funds from what they deemed as overfunded school districts to underfunded school districts. But that legislation was left alone in school districts like Old Bridge, which was identified as overfunded, meaning that they were receiving too much state aid and not enough money was being taxed upon the local taxpayer, were left alone and held harmless, meaning that our state aid remained the same throughout all of those years from 2009 up until 2017. In that summer, our state aid was approved, and our budget was approved, and then by mid-July, the state took back $1.5 million that came from nowhere. There was no preview. There was no warning that this was going to happen. In fact, they had only approved our budget a month earlier, and it put us in very desperate times. And these were very bad years to be administrator and school educator, parents, people here in Old Bridge, and of course board members. But I'm here to tell you today, this year's board, and I've said this to the public and I've said to them, was probably the most difficult year to be a board member, because what the state did, and without wisdom in Trenton, is they said that you were underfunded, meaning you weren't funding enough locally through your taxpayers, but it didn't give you a mechanism to adjust that. It just kind of held you in limbo. We're going to keep on taking money away and blame you for not taxing enough, but we're not going to let you tax anymore. And they just kept taking funds to the tune of where we had to sell rent out a school property, sell district property, close a school, have layoffs year after year, and to the point where we relied upon grants and so forth to keep going forward. So here we are in 2024, and the state and Trenton has recognized that their plan doesn't no longer work. You can't keep on taking millions and millions of dollars from a district like Old Bridge and only allow them to gain $2 million approximately and from local taxpayer funds. The math just doesn't work. You can't have inflation go up. You can't have the price of everything go up while taking millions of dollars and only allowing Old Bridge to be capped at the 2%. So the challenge was to come up with some legislation, as all of these districts are now in their seventh year, and hit what I like to call the doomsday wall, where the only thing would have been done was to decimate a school district, because you can't operate a school district that loses almost 50% of its state aid and not have a way to make up those funds. So I said to the board members, you're going to be called upon to do something very brave. And when you get a board, and we have some veteran board members here, we have new board members here, I'm just very pleased with the board members that we do have. Each of them has asked very tough questions. Each of them has called members of my team and myself sometimes late at night to ask questions, to get documents, to get data, and that's part of the job. You have to answer the questions. But as well as asking questions, they all listened. Each one of them listened. They listened for a rationale. They listened to learn more, because you don't know what you don't know when you become especially when you become a new board member. So I want to commend every one of you for asking tough questions, looking for the documents, even up to today. I need to see this, I need to see that, so I can make an informed decision. And every one of them did that, and they asked the right questions, and it's very important, because what they did was allow us, through a straw consensus, to put on here a budget that allows us to maintain our full-day kindergarten. It allows us to maintain all of our CTE programs, all of our AP programs, all of the electives at the high school that we were so concerned about losing, that makes us a comprehensive high school. It allows us to do that because they listened, they asked questions, and they acted as board members, and they acted bravely. So I want to thank all of you for that and being part of this, because each year you don't know what you're going to get, and this year we have a great team. So thank you, and every one of you who votes for this is voting to save all those programs and save a really terrific school district going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zanino. Okay, so first we have our budget priorities. For those that remember and recall, this 24-25 budget priority slide, given the situation we are in, the priorities really have not changed. We have the task to work within our means, and that is what we believe we have done with this budget. That being said, I want to review the purpose of a school budget and all that comes with it. The school budget is a planning tool. Next slide, Jim. There we go. The school budget is a planning tool. It considers contingencies, it manages to avert risks, and should be fiscally responsible and sound. It is a delicate balance as an overall financial expression. It is considered a blueprint, but one that can be altered, adapted, and modified with limitations during the year to continue efficiency. Given the last presentation, I want to provide some more insight as to the difference between our realized budget decrease and our budget shortfall on the next slide. No, you're right there. Thank you. In the first hearing, I explained that our general fund expenditures decreased by 1.20%, which was a comparison to the 23-24 school year. In this presentation, you will see that number increase to over 4%. That number is solely based on projections of real-time revenue anticipated. With the initial decreases in state aid and fund balance, a 2% tax levy increase was simply not enough to make up those losses, hence the new legislation that we have. The $12 million shortfall represents everything we felt we needed in the budget to operate in the most effective way. So there's two different components. One was just our regular shortfall. You can only estimate what revenues you're going to get. There, in comparison to last year, they decreased. But in order to make our budget really a fully efficient budget, we were really short about $12 million. That was our shortfall we were realizing for our district this year. Like many S2 districts, we are experiencing a revenue problem with a broken formula. I will explain in graph form on the next slide. So this graph that I put together, think of your personal earnings and compare it to a revenue for a local tax levy for 23-24. So for instance, $3,000 is a salary or earned revenue over 12 months. That equates to $36,000. Additionally, a household or a district has $10,000 in savings, which is equivalent to $10,000 in reserves for a district. Then you also have $5,000 in available credit on a credit card, or for a district the equivalent to $5,000 available in grant funding to use. Our expenses in 23-24, both in the home or in a school district, are $1,000 a month. The balance for spending is $39,000 multiplied out to a relative percentage, which equates to $39 million. Now, in 24-25, we take our earnings from the household or our revenues from the district and multiply that by a capped 2%. What that means is we only bring in $720 more in revenue or earnings. We use savings to make it through the 23-24 school year for some expenses. So this year, we only have $5,000 left in savings, or equate that to $5,000 in reserves for our budget. More importantly, our credit is maxed out. We used all our credit cards. We have no more grant funding available. All the while, our expenses have increased this year 12%, similar to what we heard about our health care costs that are increasing. All things considered, for the 24-25 budget, we now only have $28,280 for additional spending. Multiply that by the same percentage, equaling $28,280,000. This quick example shows how a $10 million plus deficit is generated in about 1 minute. Maybe 1 minute 30, however long it took me. So where does that leave us now? On May 14, 2024, the last day we had by law to adopt a budget, Governor Murphy signed into laws Bills A-4161 and A-4159, which created Public Law 2024, Chapter 12 and Chapter 13. Chapter 12 extended the deadline to adopt the budget, which is why we're here today. Chapter 13 includes all financial aspects of the bill. The first being the Stabilized School Budget Aid Grant Program. Within this program, districts who lost aid in 24-25 will be receiving 45% of the aid back. This equates to $1,137,717 back to the district. Next slide. The second component of the law is referred to as tax levy cap adjustments, which is a bit more complicated, so I'll try to be as clear as possible here. To explain, a district takes all the state aid loss over the last 5 school fiscal years. For Old Bridge, that amounts to $13,999,306. All that has been lost over the past 5 years. However, a condition of the bill was that the amount that would be capped would be a 9.9 increase to the local tax levy. So a district must take the lesser of the two. A 9.9% increase to the tax levy from 23-24 equates to $11,310,417, which is our benchmark. So even though we lost 13 plus million, almost 14 million in aid, the law allows us to only go up $11,310 in comparison to the 23-24 tax levy. On the next slide, here's our original tax levy cap that we started when I had to submit a budget on March 20th, I believe is the date. Here's our original tax levy cap, represented by a 2% increase plus any allowable adjustments for healthcare costs. The next slide is a screenshot from May 30th, where our budget software shows a pre-populated amount of other adjustments that a district could take on by increasing the tax levy as a component of the new law. This is a revised tax levy calculation based on 9.9%, the highest possible tax levy increase, which is the solution that brings the most possible funding back to the district. Here you will find that based on our initial budget submission, we can only raise the tax levy an additional 6.93%. So in total, our tax levy is at 9.9%. On the next slide, it should be represented. So the top, you'll see the 2% in purple. The next is the allowable adjustment of 0.97%. On the bottom half, you'll see the numbers equated out. So you have 2% was that amount, the 0.97, and then that equals 6.93% remaining to make up for those allowable adjustments that we can go up.
So just for a point of clarity, Mr. B.I., David, the 2% is required by law. There's no going around that. So what we're really looking at here is going up to 6.93, which is the most we can go up outside of what we have to go up.
Correct. Okay. Next slide, we have a quick summary of the financial considerations of Public Law 2024, Chapter 13. So this just has a summary of the state aid that you'll get back, the 45%, and then the total tax levy allowable adjustment. Next slide is a more detailed breakdown of our budget before the law and after the law. With the difference in the local tax levy and the stabilized school budget program aid, we can see an additional $9,050,726 in revenue can be brought to the district, totaling $168,259,742 as our new total operating budget. So those pieces alone, those two pieces, which are the two components of the bill, will equate to just over $9 million back to the district in revenue. However, on the next slide, even with that additional revenue, the scary part is the status of the district is still $7 million, or to be exact, $7,314,735 under adequacy, meaning we're still underfunded. Obviously, we're increasing our tax levy here as proposed, but we're still over $7 million under adequacy compared to what the DOE believes we should be at. Okay, now we talk about our revenues. As I have stated in the past, revenues drive expenditures. So here we have an updated chart reflecting our revised revenues. You will see that the revenue here matches our general fund, our operating budget. On the next slide, you'll see our unusual and notable revenue items stay the same. This is the same slide that was presented on the first budget presentation. But on the next slide, you will see those new revenue items listed that are currently in our budget. I believe it's lines 100 is the local tax levy, is the new revised line, and line 500 is other state aids now that we're allowed to bring in from component 1 of the new law. Again, Revenues drive appropriations. That's our biggest thing to remember here. So let's move next to the appropriations. On this slide, which is similar to those you've seen in the past, I've summarized the budget into 7 categories. As previously mentioned, now the district is budgeting a 4.42% increase in spending. This is a result simply of the new revenues allowable by law. Most notably, our program costs have changed drastically. At our first budget hearing, we were seeing program costs decrease $7,490,163, or a negative 8.94% in relation to 23-24. Program costs now represent 49.07% of our general fund budget. The employee benefits line represents 24% of the budget, containing many semi-fixed cost items such as health benefits, prescription benefits, dental and vision insurance, workers' compensation insurance, pension costs, payroll taxes, and other employee benefits. As we save employees' jobs, we need to account for those associated employee benefits. So that's why if you compared from last budget presentation, you will see that number increase as well. The projected increase is 9.63%. The largest component within those costs is healthcare premiums. As we are enrolled in the State Educators Health Plan, we are projecting premium increases of anywhere from 12% to now 18% for the first half of 2025. Statutory changes to employee benefit contributions have continued to create a substantial burden of the increased cost to the district. The next line is our maintenance and operation line, which is 10.72% of the budget. This contains required custodial services, security, and energy costs. We are working hard to try to keep these costs as flat as possible, even through increasing mandates to necessary repairs and maintenance required throughout the year. The transportation line is about 9.25% of the budget, containing costs for salaries to operate our own fleet of district-owned buses, contracted services, or outside vendors that provide daily busing for students. You will see a percentage change of 24.06%, which is to combat the increase of contractor route pricing, shortage of drivers from contractors, increasing fuel costs, maintenance, and administration of the entire transportation operation. The administrative cost line is 5.54% of the budget, contains the cost of staffing of the main offices of all schools, such as school principals and secretaries, the superintendent's office, the business office, and district-wide technology components. This number proposed is down from the prior year budget. The tuition cost line is about 2.74% of the budget. Hasn't changed from the last presentation. Contains costs from tuition out of district students in private placements and tuition for students that attend vocational schools. The capital outlay line is about 1.47% of the budget. Contains costs for facility upgrades, SDA assessments for past referendums, and as just a reminder, as Vice President Ms. D'Antuno said a few meetings ago, what is important here to remember is that the funds for facility upgrades come from a separate bank account, aside from our general fund budget, and could be only used to fund facility projects. Next are these figures represented in a pie chart. You can show clearly that our program costs that are included here make up about half of the budget. However, let's break these costs down further on the next slide. This is the important one. Program cost details. Program costs include regular education programs, all special education programs, including learning and or language disability programs, behavioral disabilities, multiple disabilities, resource room or resource center programs, autism programs, preschool disability programs for a half day, or preschool disabilities programs for a full day. It includes academic support, bilingual programs, co-curricular or athletic programs, and alternative programs. These programs are supported by attendance services, health services, speech programs, extraordinary or related services programs. Those are for students with IEPs, guidance, child study team services, improvement of instruction services, educational media services, or instructional staff training. These program costs could include items such as staffing, supplies, textbooks, software licenses for different softwares used throughout the district, or outsourced educational services and their supports. While this detailed chart may still show negative changes, it is important to note the sheer size of these changes. For example, to compare, regular program instruction has changed from a negative 13.86% or $6,410,853 of a loss to now a negative 2.94%. So again, that's a huge change, almost 10% there, if not more, of 13.86 to 2.94. Again, when looking at the percentage change, it is important to review the context of the figures and compare the line relative to the total percentage of the program costs. So when the costs altogether are much smaller and there's a change, you're going to see a much higher percentage change just based on the lower total percent of the budget. On our next slide, we have our capital outlay. This is a repeat slide from our last presentation. This slide is a summary of the capital expenditures included in the 24-25 proposed budget. Repairs to the retaining wall in the back of Old Bridge High School in conjunction with the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. We have paving and masonry upgrades and playground upgrades are all included. The district will continue to look for and apply for as many facilities grants we could find, which are not represented by any figures within this presentation. The other items are state mandated items. For our appropriations, our unusual and notable items remain the same as we are still experiencing the same challenges of inflation and extremely high rising costs, as well as now the expired federal grant funding for COVID-19. Next slide, Jim. So tonight, as Mr. Cedino stated, the toughest year probably ever to be a board member is upon us. The board will be voting on our revised budget with an increased tax levy and a stabilized school budget aid grant. 5 votes of yes from the board will bring $9,050,726 of additional revenue, meaning the following: all school buildings to remain in operation. The moving of Old Bridge High School to a 6-period or shortened day is abandoned. All educational programs at Old Bridge High School are to remain. Academic intervention at the high school is to remain. Reinstatement of full-day kindergarten at all existing locations. Junior varsity, freshman, and middle school athletics all to remain. Elementary school-related arts to remain. No shortening of an elementary school day. Maintain 2 sections in grade 1 at all elementary schools. Instrumental music at the elementary schools is to stay. Existing level of effective school solution services to remain. And our middle school summer program to remain. Last but not least, our hours of summer service for our guidance counselors are still intact. However, on the next slide you'll see the $9,050,726 in revenue is a figure that is still short of our total shortfall. Difficult decisions still had to be made by the administration and in conjunction with the board. The additional funding did not make the district completely whole. For the 24-25 school year, the district may experience the changes to after school extracurricular transportation, reduction of employees through attrition. Most notably, these reductions will be based on projected enrollments at schools and existing retirements. Reassignment of subject area responsibilities. Reassignment of elementary technology support responsibilities. Please note, for any program having reductions or cuts, the administration carefully considered the programs that would least impact the educational progress and achievement of all students. The next slide is our 24-25 tax rate calculation. This slide is the one that looks very familiar to most from previous years. However, on the next slide, I've added this slide to represent those figures in a different way. In comparison to 23-24, we will be increasing revenue from our total tax levy by a total of $11,310,417. For an average assessed home of $156,542, this would equate to a total of $282.28 annually as an increase to tax levy, or the taxes rather, or $23.52 per month. Again, for $282 annually as an increase to your taxes, you'll be bringing back over $9 million to to essentially save our district, as Mr. Citadino provided. In summary, our 24-25 budget summary remains as follows. The proposed budget for 24-25 aims to continue to support as many educational programs as possible, despite significant reductions of state aid compiled over 6 years of S2, overwhelming increases to expenditures and inflation. With this new revised budget, we believe we did that, and we did so successfully. Through these challenges, the proposed budget aims to continue supporting healthy learning environments across all schools made possible by our staff. We wouldn't be here in stating the good things about our district, the accomplishments that we skipped over tonight. We wouldn't be here without them. The proposed budget for 24-25 extends the useful life of current technologies used for student learning and achievement. The proposed budget for 24-25 provides funding to ensure all curriculum and resources are aligned with all state standards. The proposed budget for 24-25 provides academic, social, and emotional support mechanisms for all students, regardless of their talents and abilities, through various obtainable resources. With that concludes the presentation of our revised 24-25 budget. We'll now open the floor to the board or the administration for closing comments.
Mr. Sulikowski? May I say something?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. So Mr. Waddell and Mr. Citadino are correct. This was really, really difficult. We were faced with two bad decisions: raise taxes or cut programs. And we talked about this, and with the information that Mr. Waddell gave us, we realized that this vote would put us in a better position so that we didn't have to do the same thing every year and keep coming back every year to decide what programs we were going to cut and see if they would allow us to raise the tax levy. The tax levy we can only raise for 1 year. In the end, I'm really proud of us as a board because we debated over this, we discussed it, I won't say we argued, but we talked emotionally about it, and we agreed in the end that what we were going to do, it was the right thing for the students. So I thank Mr. Citadino and Mr. Waddell for acknowledging how difficult this was, and it really was a difficult decision.
Anyone else? The difficult decision lies with the board now. Okay. Any other comments from the board? No? Yes. Any comments from the public now? Just on the budget itself.
Yep, for any
get in line.
public
Get in line,
comments,
please.
the
Thank
public
you.
comment period will now begin. You'll please go to the podium.
Yes, state your name.
Good evening. My name is Richard Dunn. I live at 58 Norman Lane. And I was very pleased when I saw this draft agenda come out, which told me as a previous board member that there was a consensus on the board of preserving our programs. Obviously, as articulately as David Citadino had represented at his opening statement, he's very proud of the board. And I got that sense when I saw this agenda come out. And I know it's a very difficult and arduous decision to make to raise taxes. I get it. And we all need to realize that it's important that we preserve all our programs for our children. We've all been elected or served up here for the betterment of the children. And I understand that there's different educational ideologies out there. There's two different spectrums on the board. It's always been that way. And for this board to come together in a consensus, hopefully, is very refreshing. And I want to speak very positively because I've been up in your shoes. And the ultimate goal is to preserve our programs for our children. We serve the children. You serve the children. And what I'm getting out of this discussion and what I see on the agenda is very refreshing because the 9 board members up here realized that they serve the children. And that's refreshing, and I'm very pleased to see that. I get it. I get it that a lot of you on the board have gotten phone calls from other outside pressures telling you to vote a different way or a certain way, but ultimately it's your decision. And I'm very proud that there's some sort of consensus here that's going to take us to a position where we can preserve our programs. Listen, our real estate tax, our real estate values are based upon our schools. And if we were going to decimate our schools and put them down in doldrums where they're not going to be highly performing, it would cause us problems all over the town. So with that said, I'm going to ask all the board members here to dig down deep into your heart and vote yes for this budget. Preserving the programs is important. We have wonderful staff in this district. We don't want to lose any of them. I believe over 200 of the staff members received RIF notices. They're all disconcerted right now because they don't know where they stand. We lose great teachers. We lose great staff. It's just going to hurt us in the long run. I've served with Mr. Silikowski for many, many years. I've served with Sal Giordano, Lisa Lent. I get it. We've always had our differences, but ultimately I see that we are together on this. And I'm appealing to the board to please approve this budget as is because it will preserve our programs. I want to say thank you, Mr. Silikowski, and the entire board who has given this serious consideration, and hopefully we get a yes tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Anyone else? State your name.
Darren Asatuli, Citizen Councilman of Oak Ridge. Look, I know we're all here today and it's tough. Every single one of them up there has got to be challenged. I can't imagine what you guys go through thinking about all the people that will say you did the wrong thing or did the right thing. I actually called the Senator Gopal's office myself. And I asked him specifically, why are you doing this to Oak Ridge? And he specifically called me back within 24 hours and said these words: your taxes are going up because your home prices went up 40%. So you can afford to pay the taxes. I said, is there anything else I need to know? That's it. It's very fuzzy. We understand that. But I have just one question. How long, and this is for Dave, probably the BA, how long did we know that these cuts were coming? And how many meetings have we had over the last year or so to talk about it? Because if we knew that we were losing $14 million, I would just assume that we would have conversations daily knowing it was coming. I don't think anybody here, including me, I got 2 girls in the system. I don't want my daughters to suffer and lose programs. And can you imagine how the teachers are feeling right now? I've been to the volleyball games, I've been to grand openings, I've been all over town the last 6 months. They're so riddled with anxiety not knowing what's happening. They're getting emails from everybody. They're getting board stuff. They're going to lose their jobs. Can you imagine what they feel right now? It's scary. And we're all going to clap if taxes go up, taxes go down. Who's on political sides, who's not. Listen, I learned a lot over the last couple of years. I was an angry dad and saw my kids suffer for 2 years when the schools were closed. I don't want the kids to get hurt. I believe we have a great town, we have good people. But when you have a board and a superintendent and a BA, if we know cuts are coming, I just want to have a question, simple question. How many meetings we had and did we discuss it? And for the BA, he said the taxes are going to go up $282 for the year. If you could explain maybe, if my taxes are $16,000, how is it $23 a month? I just have those questions. That's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening.
Okay.
Thanks for the opportunity. Just a couple of questions.
Your name, sir?
Joe Monagas.
Good.
Old Bridge resident. In light of the PowerPoint and this documentation, how accurate is that in accordance to the documentation? Is it the same material? Okay. Okay, the next question would be for the new programs. How many are federally mandated, if any? How many are, and what would they be? Or are they just voluntary programs?
David? Okay.
Do you not, okay. So,
Go ahead.
you had said some of these are new programs. You have to implement some new things, understandable. Are they just mandates from the federal government, or are they just things you want to mandate, you want to implement in the system? In light of, what's your name? David.
Mr. Weidel, but we'll let you ask all your questions, and then once you're
No,
done.
that's it. That's all I have. That's basically it. Oh, okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Joe.
Have a
Try
good
to
night.
answer 'em. Go ahead.
Andrew Lewis, OBEA. I'm glad to be reading this set of remarks tonight as opposed to the other versions that I've prepared over the last few weeks. I want to commend each of you for your dedication and commitment to our students' well-being and the success of our schools. We're at a crossroads, faced with choices that were undoubtedly challenging. The decisions being made tonight will have far-reaching consequences, not only for our schools, but for our community. It's in moments like these that our mission must be clear and unwavering, to put our students first. Based on tonight's presentation, it appears that you are doing just that. I hope that your votes this evening will reflect your commitment to our students and our staff. Our students are at the heart of our community. The reasons that we're all here, the reasons that our staff work so hard, that board members and administration work so hard, the reason we strive for excellence. Each decision that you make should be guided by a singular question. How does this benefit our students? I urge each of you to reflect on the profound impact that your decisions will have on the lives of our students. How does a yes vote benefit our district students? What impact would voting no have on our students? Our community has fought against these budget cuts for 7 years. We have an opportunity to begin to repair some of the damage done by Trenton and by S2. I commend everyone sitting up here tonight for their work in starting to do just that. The decisions that you make today will echo for years to come. It's a challenging task, but I have faith in this board's dedication to doing what is right. I ask you to please make choices that reflect our highest values and our aspirations for our students' future. Together, we can create an educational environment that truly prioritizes and nurtures the potential of every student. Thank you again for your hard work, your dedication, and your unwavering commitment to excellence in education. I look forward to hearing all 9 of you vote yes this evening.
Thank you. Anyone else? I guess not.
Did you close it, sir?
Okay, Mr. Cedardino.
All right, now
Hopefully you
that,
can answer the question. Go ahead.
Yes. First, Mr. Asatuli's question. Your first statement about Senator Gopal, and thank you for bringing that up. I also met with a few senators, legislators, and this is how asinine the system is when we're looking at Trenton and elected officials. Their response to me was the same. The home values have gone up. The income of the residents has gone up, so you can afford to pay more. So, through what? There's a 2% cap. It doesn't, everybody, there could be a room full of billionaires from New Jersey Lotto in here, and all have gone up, but we can only go up 2%. And that's been the problem since S2 was initiated, and they said we've underspent. When they say underspent, it's not like we didn't try to spend money. We underfunded locally. We didn't get enough from the taxpayers. But the school district has a cap on it. It can only tax at 2%. So it doesn't matter how much everyone's making or if the home values have gone up. And I'd like to think the home values go up in relation to the school district doing well. So that's the part of the frustration for us, is it's based on a funding formula that is kept under greater secrecy than Fort Knox. And if you ask how many times we meet every week. We've been meeting every week since I've been superintendent. We meet every week to go over the unknowns of this budget going forward. And one of the things that is, I think you should know and everyone should know, we don't find out what our funding is until February 29th. And then we have to have a budget adopted by March 15th. Can you imagine you're running a $160 million business and you have 2 weeks to put together a budget based upon a number you don't know what it is going to be. That's the way they operate school districts in the state of New Jersey. That's the way Trenton expects us to be successful. We can't tell you what you're going to get in state aid until after the governor's address. You're going to get it on February 29th, but please turn that $160 million budget around and get it back to us. Get your board to absorb it. Talk to them, give them all the information they need to make an educated decision, and get it back to us. That's the frustrating part. I thank you for being in service, for being an elected official, because maybe you can change something, because this isn't working. It hasn't been working since they adopted it in 2007, and it hasn't been working since they beat up Old Bridge in 2017. Mr. Joe? Say it to me again, Joe. I'm sorry. Managas. All right. So, yes, those are the same materials. I'll ask you for clarity. There's no new programs. We're not introducing any new programs. We are bringing back or maintaining the programs we have. I say there are no new programs. No.
No, when I said new mandates, that was in regards to the maintenance line. Maintenance and required maintenance to upkeep the school building. For instance, there's a mandate, New Jersey Department of Education makes you test your schools for lead testing in the water every few years. This year, 24-25 school year, we're now required to test. The last time we had a test was 21-22, I believe. So we'll see this year we have to take on that added expense that we haven't had necessarily the past few years. We don't know what those costs are going to be. How much did inflation or those services, increase? That's one. There's another new mandate that's coming out this year, starting for July 1, for menstrual products, feminine products. We are required now to purchase those products from grades 6 through 12. The state will eventually reimburse, but that upfront cost is going to be bared by the district. And typically, have we seen these new programs? Sometimes the reimbursement doesn't come till the following year after your year is done. Then the Department of Education. Those are both two New Jersey Department of Education mandates for this year. Additionally, it's just they're continuing or upkeeping our buildings for codes. Codes often change. We have to update, different things. For instance, in a high school, if we changed use in one of our rooms, we have to get that up to code for pertaining to that use, and that increases costs based on the township looking at it to make sure that those are all in compliance with code. So there's definitely just increasing mandates such as that add costs that are just not borne in prior years. It's only new going forward. So those are just some of the new mandated programs, and they're typically Department of Education. Anything if we're changing a use is in conjunction with the Township of Old Bridge. We talk to the building department directly on that. You're welcome.
Thank you, Joe. Yes. What was the question? Just repeat the question.
About the tax question, you said it was going to be for everyone is $282, correct? But if my taxes are, no, just hear me out. If my taxes are $16,000, some are $15,000, some are $17,000, how does that equate to 23?
So
I
it's
was asking.
Yep, no problem. It's based on the average assessed value of your home. So if your home is assessed at $156,542, your annual increase based on calculations will be around $282. If your home is assessed maybe at half of that, take it down a half, you're going to see 200 or 100, so you're going to get half of that 282. If you're over that 156 by half of it, then you're going up another half on that. So it's all relative to that $156,000 average home value.
And it could be more, it could be less, though,
It
right?
could be more,
Correct.
could be less.
But it's not exactly 282, right?
It's
I just wanted everybody just to
Right.
kind of be transparent, because I had some people call me, Dave, honestly, said, hey, how is it only this? That's great. So if it's more, you'll pay a little bit more.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
cool.
Exactly.
Some
We can
some
only
have-
base it upon, as the state gives us, the average number, and that's the average assessed value in Old Bridge. But we, to be transparent, we did a little research on that too. We saw like $1 million home in Old Bridge is assessed at $350.
Right.
So it's going to be double less than double of that 282 if you're
Right.
living in a $1 million home. I don't know what kind of home you're living in, but
Right.
you seem to roll nice. So.
Right.
But
You understand where I'm
those calculations are ultimately provided by each year in January. I get abstract numbers from the township. So I get ratables from the township to say, here's our base of ratables, here's the average assessed values of the homes, and there's just formulas to put in to make those calculations work. So
Anyone else from the public? Go ahead, thank you.
Hi,
This
Bridget
is
Lava. Just to give a little more
Your name,
context.
please?
Bridget Lava.
Okay.
So based on your $16,000, you actually have to look at your tax bill and see what portion of that is this. Oh yeah, for example.
And you have to
we need to
direct your-
address the
Sorry,
board.
okay.
We did
Sorry.
close the public portion. Yeah, okay. All right, so please just address the board. And
Okay.
Okay,
Yep,
we're
thank
gonna
you.
close the public portion after this young lady finishes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So a little added context. If your taxes, and I'm going to use round numbers, are $10,000, you then have to reduce that amount. That's your total, including municipal and library and this, that, and the other. You have to look on your tax bill. It tells you the percentage of your total tax bill is your school tax. I'm going to say it's roughly 60% of your total. So if your total tax for the year is $10,000, $6,000 is your school tax. That's the number that you then have to multiply by 9.9% to get to what the increase is. So don't freak out that, you're getting almost 10% on your entire tax bill. That's not the case. Look at your tax bill and it will tell you what percentage of your tax bill is for the school tax. Thanks.
thank you.
And it's 58%. 58, yeah,
Okay, can I get
thank you.
can I get the board to move 1 through 3?
Dantuna will move.
Can I get a second?
Jodrell second.
Any discussion?
I'm going to separate 2 and 3.
Separating 2 and 3 for discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
Who is that? Sal?
Yep.
2 and 3 for discussion?
Well, discussion
For
and
discussion.
discussion and action.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
We could vote on one.
Can I just, can I say something?
Yeah.
Can I just ask my fellow board members, last meeting was very confusing when we were saying yes and no to certain numbers. If we're voting one way for one set and one for another, can we separate numbers for voting so that us as board members and the public can follow along? Please?
Yes, okay.
So, just to recap, we had a motion by Dantuno, seconded by Jodrey. Giordano then separated resolution number 2 and 3 for voting and discussion.
Okay. Mr.
So it's,
Giordano?
vote on. No, I want to vote on one first.
Okay, you want to vote on number 1 first? Okay. Okay. Roll call, please, for number 1.
So this is going to be for roll call for item number 1.
Only number 1, yes.
Okay. Lent. Just to clarify, item number 1 is to approve the stabilized school budget aid grant program in the budget, which is the $1,137,717. Lent was a yes, correct?
Yes.
Marquetta.
Yes.
Mazzone.
Yes.
Slade.
Yes.
Dantuno.
Yes.
Giordano.
Yes.
Jodrey.
Yes.
Francisco.
Yes.
Solikowski.
Yes.
Resolution 1 for finance passes.
Okay, discussion number 2 and 3, please.
Yes, correct. Okay, so for last few meetings, I've been telling the public to get in touch with me about their opinions on the budget. We had a great turnout. A lot of people approved it. There were some that didn't approve it, but overall, the unbiased population approved to increase the taxes 9.9%. I respect their decision, and I supported the board when we came to this agreement of passing the budget. But however, I still have to represent those with no children or those older citizens that will be getting this steep tax increase out of nowhere. So unless the board, any board members have any other relevant objections specifically to the budget, I'm going to support those that are going to be negatively affected affected by this. And also, this was the most student participation. There were a lot of students that expressed their concerns for AP classes, and all of them were ahead of my time based on where they are now in the classes they're taking. So I'd like to congratulate them for their participation and for their emails. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on 2 and 3?
Yes, so to understand, and again, I'm respecting everyone's right to have an opinion and things like that, but so while you congratulate the students, oh, my watch doesn't understand. While you congratulate the students for their effort on the AP exams, by voting no on it, you're thus discontinuing their opportunity to quote unquote follow in your footsteps, which you say every meeting, because now if we don't approve the budget, there could be no AP classes. David, correct me if I'm wrong, if we vote it down, the state steps in and decides everything.
It would be the county, the state.
County, state. Yeah. And although we keep saying 9.9, we figured out it's 6.9 is going to be the increase. So out of the $282 to $28, that's the 9.9. So 3% of that you're going to get taxed on anyway. Am I understanding that correctly?
I'm just representing the older citizens and those without children.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but did you just congratulate all the AP students for their hard work and their accomplishment, that they're ahead of your time, and now you want to take that opportunity away to the next year students, correct?
No. If there's 4, let's say hypothetically there were 4 board members, I would approve it. I'm just saying when the vote is all done, I'm going to be representing those that are affected.
Those are the ones that are affected.
Okay, I think we had enough of discussion on this.
Yep.
So
No,
what we're going to do...
I know people are going to misinterpret it.
Well, that's what I'm asking for
yeah.
clarification.
Okay.
That's what a discussion is.
Yeah, I'm explaining it.
So,
Okay.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to vote on number 2 separately and on number 3 separately.
No,
Was there
b-
discussion
both
on
to-
3?
Both together.
They were together.
Yeah, we could vote both them together.
2 and 3
Together?
together.
Mr. Giordano asked for the separation, so you're okay with them being voted together?
Yes.
Okay. Roll call.
Okay, roll call on 2 and 3, please.
Okay. For resolution 2 is the tax levy cap adjustment allowed, and resolution 3 is the adoption of the 24-25 revised budget. Lent,
Yes.
Marquetta,
Yes.
Mazzone,
Yes.
Slade,
Yes.
D'Antuno,
For the children, yes.
Giordano,
Pass.
Jodry,
Yes.
Francisco,
Yes.
Solikowski.
For our community, yes.
Resolution 2 and 3 passes.
You're supposed to come back to me. It was
go.
supposed to be
Oh.
no. Yeah, so no. No
Okay.
for me. Thank you.
No problem, Sal. Nope.
I want to thank the board for their votes, and this will conclude our meeting.
Aren't we allowed?
Okay?
No.
Oh, yes, comments if you have any, okay? But
Well,
all the programs are here, and all you people, nobody lost their job. Thank you.
I would like to just say I'm glad that's over, but there's plenty of work to do. I got a lot of work still to do, so thank you all.
Okay, hearing of residents on any school items, anything to do with our educational system. State your name, please.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear.
All right, I'm always the short one. I want to address Sal. because I
State your
know-
name, please.
Oh, my name is Mariah Kamal Wicks.
Thank you.
Sal, I know you're always talking about
Can
being
you
physically.
You have to
direct your
address the board
questions to
president,
Mr.
please.
President, please. Direct your questions to Mr. Solikowski, please.
Oh, I have to address Matt first? And then I'll address him. It's like playing the telephone game. All right, the only reason why I wanted to come up and say something, I know it keeps being mentioned about covering everybody when it comes to taxes and it comes to saving the schools. Yes, we save the school for the children, but yes, we do know taxes affect our house value. So if you pay attention to NerdWallet, physical finance, and everything else, Boomers will be retiring next year. They're going to want to sell their homes. So if we have no school system, they're taking a loss. So I just want him to know that, to keep that in his mind when he said he's trying to represent everybody. Thank you.
Anyone else on any school district items? Thank you.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. My name is Megan Valenzola, and I was that member of the class of 2025 that spoke at the last meeting. I just wanted to address the board to say thank you. Thank you for listening to your constituents upon what we believed was best. Thank you for making an informed decision. And thank you not just for myself, but for the students and the staff, any member of the Old Bridge family that will remain because of this, for making the best decision for us after giving us the tools that needs to succeed. We all knew that there were going to be cuts, no matter what situation it was. But thank you for doing what was best for Old Bridge, for giving me my senior year, and giving the kindergartners everything that they need for the next 13 years of their lives. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else on any school district items? No one? Okay, thank you. Okay, that concludes the meeting. We're going to go into a closed executive session for a short period of time. Thank you very much. I need a motion to go into an executive session.
Lynch will move it.
Can I get a second?
Giordano, second.
Thank you. Good night, all.
Are you two going to go home and go to bed now?